Coming up on Mountain News this morning, we take you to Frankfort, where the first day of the Kentucky legislative session is now in the books.
Also in Frankfort, state officials are working together to help shed the light on the issue of human trafficking here in the Commonwealth. Plus, we take you to Richmond, where one school teacher has lost his job and is now under federal investigation.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 2 minutes after 6. I'm Will Puckett.
And I'm Madison Pergram. You got it right this time.
I did. Look at us. We're trending upwards. Thanks for tuning in to Mountain News This Morning on this Wednesday. Madison, a lot calmer than what we saw yesterday morning.
A lot calmer. Kids are back to school. They're waking up disappointed.
They're disappointed, but I'm sure mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, or whoever's taking care of them, are ecstatic. Let's bring Brandon in this morning. And Brandon, the further east you got yesterday, it got into a winter wonderland, but this morning the moon's out, sun's getting ready to come out, and it's just going to be a typical winter day in the mountains.
That's true. Going to be a little bit warmer, actually closer to average today, so that's not too bad. But that warming trend upward is going to continue as we head deeper into the week, even with some rain chances late. Let's talk about this morning, though. First, outside WYMT, pretty quiet, not too many issues going on. Clear skies, maybe some frost in your areas this morning, probably a lot of frost in some areas this morning, and some slick spots possible on some of those back roads this morning because temperatures did get below or close to freezing in some of those sheltered valleys. So just kind of keep that in mind as you travel this morning. It's a few degrees warmer in most locations, especially in the Big Sandy and Kentucky River than it was this time yesterday morning, but a few degrees colder down into the Cumberland Valley. So again, as mentioned, give yourself a couple extra minutes to scrape the frost off of the windshield. It's not going to be a day that you're going to have to spend a whole lot of extra time, but give yourself some time. If you don't, you'll regret it. 46 this afternoon. Frost gives way to sunny skies, and as we look ahead, well, the trend of warmer temperatures continues along with the sunshine to at least today and tomorrow, and then soggy weather returns by the end of the week. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Well, the first day of the Kentucky legislative session is now in the books. Lawmakers gavelled in at noon on Tuesday with some rule changes made regarding on how bills are discussed and voted on. We also heard some hints on what could be some of the major issues this session. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on the start of the General Assembly.
House come to order. Members, proceed to your seats.
High noon on Tuesday, and the Kentucky House was back in session.
Quorum is declared. The House is ready to proceed.
House leaders have yet to say what their specific priority bills will be.
The priority of the session is the budget. It's the one thing that we're required by the Constitution to do. We take that mission very seriously.
Knowing they will need to find revenue to meet a lot of demand.
But we continue to be a state with many needs and one with limited resources.
Lawmakers passed several rule changes, including on how bills are voted on and then discussed, including the process of abolishing bills that are passed on what is called the consent calendar. Bunching together bills at once is no longer allowed.
Going forward, all bills that come to the House floor will be voted on individually.
Hundreds of bills have been filed for this year, and while casino gambling is doubtful, the House leadership did say there may be support for sports betting. Another bill that could see some traction is allowing medicinal marijuana.
You know, it's one that we have to gauge the interest of the body. We will, as with every bill that is filed, we will give due consideration, gauge the interest of the body, and move forward in the best manner possible.
Osborne says their bills will focus on pro-jobs and pro-family type legislation. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, no action on the spending plan is expected until Governor Beshear delivers his budget address to a joint session of the legislature on January 28th.
Now, there is some good news for people who want to obtain their GED. The state is waiving test fees. Those fees amount to about $120. State officials say this will help the more than 300,000 Kentuckians who don't have a GED or high school diploma. They say this removes a barrier for people with goals of a better education and better jobs.
We are going to help so many adults. I believe that the first amount of funding that we're putting aside could help 5,000 Kentuckians this coming year secure that GED. But let me tell you, if the volume and demand is more, we'll find the money.
The Education Workforce Development Cabinet allotted more than $600,000 in state funding to waive the test fees. People who do not pass the test the first time will have to pay the fee to take the test again.
And yesterday, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron pledged to fight child abuse in the Commonwealth. The AG met with the group Kentucky Youth Advocates to discuss better coordination. Federal statistics show that Kentucky ranks first in the nation for child abuse, and Cameron promised to use his office to vigorously prosecute perpetrators.
January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. The goal is to shed light on human trafficking in the Bluegrass. When Governor Beshear was Attorney General, ending human trafficking in the Commonwealth was one of his main causes. An exhibit on display at the state capitol demonstrates the issue of domestic sex trafficking using statistics specific to Kentucky. The goal is to educate people about the vulnerabilities victims face.
I want you to know as you go through that exhibit that Stephanie's story is a real story about a woman that a young girl we had the privilege to serve. But her story is representative of what's happening across the United States.
Governor Beshear signed a proclamation in honor of Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Research shows in a 5-year period, almost 700 cases of child trafficking were reported.
And pro-gun activists gathered at the Capitol in Frankfort to show their support for the right to bear arms, as well as to send lawmakers a message that they do not want stricter gun laws. Krista Frost was at yesterday's rally in Frankfort.
This is not a Republican issue. This isn't a Democratic issue. This is an American issue. So we're trying to unite everybody that believes in the Second Amendment to stand up and use one voice.
It's a right they say keeps them safe in their homes, can put food on their table, and might be in jeopardy.
They're taking small chips because before we know it, the right's gone.
This rally is partially in response to Bill Request 354.
Basically an assault weapons ban.
What they say could have a ripple effect under new leadership in Frankfort, something these supporters have seen begin to happen in neighboring state Virginia. That's why Kentucky United sparked this rally and saw hundreds show up. And the organization isn't stopping here.
We have been assisting counties turning into 2A sanctuaries.
A way to try to protect people locally from laws that come down which could violate their Second Amendment right. It's part of what they can do to take matters into their own hands.
We want them to know, listen, we are the people, we support this, we want you to support it. That's why we vote for these people.
In Frankfort, Krista Frost, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, the new Democratic majority in Virginia's General Assembly leads many to fear that the bills, which sat for years, will become law without strong GOP opposition. And one Kentucky Democrat says he's running for Rocky Atkins' former seat. Sandy Hook native Bill Redwine is running in the 99th House District. He worked for Morehead State University for almost 40 years. The seat was vacated by Atkins when he became senior advisor to Governor Andy Beshear. Atkins had held the seat since 1987. Richard White is running for the seat on the Republican side.
Well, Hazard Community and Technical College President Dr. Jennifer Linden sat down with Steve Hensley yesterday to talk about a variety of topics, including the college's efforts to help laid-off coal miners find new jobs. One of the most popular programs for those coal miners is the Electrical Lineman Program, a program Dr. Linden says several Black Jewel miners just graduated from.
The good thing about the lineman is that you will make a salary that's comparable to what you made in the mines. So that's attractive to many people. We have another lineman class starting in March. We have CDL, and that's something else that's just been so popular.
If you take the CDL class, it's worth it for the simulator alone. Also a really good job to get into. Now you can watch the entire interview with Dr. Linden Monday night at 7 o'clock on Issues and Answers right here on WYMT.
And the Lexington Herald Leader reports a local coal company can't pay its miners because it did not post a required bond. That could mean Quest Energy and the American Resources Cooperation may be breaking state law. Miners with Perry County Coal told us they were laid off last week without notice, and now they are missing their paycheck. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's almost the exact same situation Black Jewel miners faced in the summer of 2019. During the Black Jewel saga, then Attorney General Andy Beshear blamed the Kentucky Labor Cabinet for not ensuring the bonds were posted. Now that Bashir is governor, some are wondering how fast the new administration is moving to enforce the decades-old law.
Well, to West Virginia now, where more than 60 employees of Panther Creek Mining in Kanawha County are losing their jobs. The county's commission recently received warn notices. Officials said the notice affects 65 employees. Commission President Kent Carper says the layoffs will impact more than 100 family members in Kanawha County. The layoffs are set to take place in March.
An investigation into West Virginia Governor Jim Justice has ended. The governor's attorney told reporters that there was no finding of wrongdoing. This is video of yesterday's news conference, and the governor has been the subject of rumors after it was made public last year that federal prosecutors sent 3 subpoenas to his administration requesting information about his businesses and a lavish resort he owns.
Well, a Richmond teacher has lost his job and is facing federal charges. School officials say Larry Foley had taught for several years at La Fontaine Preparatory School in Richmond. The school's co-founder sent a letter to parents Monday saying the FBI had searched Foley's home and arrested him. The letter also said Foley would no longer teach at the school. FBI agents did not go into specifics about why they searched Foley's home, but did say the case did not involve students or other staff members at the school. Kentucky State Police tell us they are not involved with the FBI's investigation.
And the governor wants to seize $1.6 million for Tennessee doctors suspected of enabling the opioid epidemic in southern Kentucky. David Coffey ran a clinic in Oneida, Tennessee that was raided in 2018 because the clinic was linked to drug trafficking rings in Pulaski, Russell, and McCreary counties. Now the government is trying to have 2 cars and a sum of money forfeited to them. Criminal charges have not been filed against him.
Forecast this morning, a little bit on the cool side. We take a look at some of the cameras this morning, and you're seeing the quiet conditions there on top of US 119, on top of Whitesburg Pine Mountains. And frost is possible this morning, so just give yourself time to get out and warm those cars up this morning as temperatures starting close to freezing, all the way up closer to 40, but it's 46 is the forecast high today with lots of sunshine. Guys?
Thank you, Brandon, and thank you for joining Mountain News this morning.
More news is on the way.
We are awaiting a statement from President Trump regarding missiles fired at 2 Iraqi bases with U.S. troops in disagreement over if any Americans were killed in the attack.
And more news out of Iran, where area media says a commercial plane has crashed in the capital city, reportedly killing more than 100 people on board.